Diba? It's the Department of Foreign Affairs because, what about the others? So I'm so grateful for the esteemed and distinguished presence of our Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much. And the team who are here, including the Cultural Diplomacy Department. And because, again, I'm not reading my speech, and because many years ago, when he was ambassador to the United Kingdom, what year did you exit SFA Manalo? 2017? When you left London?
Yeah, 2016.
2016. On a Facebook page, and I don't do Facebook up to now, because I want to keep my son. But my son told me the ambassador's dream was to have a Philippine Studies in the School of Oriental Studies, 2016. And I asked the DFA, why not? And they said, because there's no support. I reached out to SOAS, and they said, every ASEAN nation has a studies program, except the Philippines, because there is, don't fall off your seats, no support from government, and they don't have much materials. Oh, I would not allow that to happen. Immediately, I worked and I reached out to him and DFA and with my office to ensure the full funding of the first ever Philippine Studies program in a university, and of course, the substance of it all. They can't just research, oh, Indonesia like the Philippines, and to support by giving all the materials and researchers, not just legislation, the policies, and I got government agencies to provide support. And so, it's not easy, it's not an overnight thing. We started it 2018 or 19. It took 1 or 2 years to get it off the ground, and the first Philippine Studies program in the School of Oriental and African Studies was created. Then after that, we supported contemporary art exhibitions in SOAS. And you know what? Now we have more than 25 Philippine Studies programs in different universities in the world, including Austria, Spain, Complutense in Spain, even the Yusuf Institute in Singapore. I can go on and on. And we have Ruhr University in Bochum, Humboldt University, Abed Ocampo had lectured in Missouri as well. University of, it's 25. And soon, we will invite you once again, together with the NCCA and the DFA, we will launch the Philippine Studies book so that those who are not able to be there, of course, and all the students of the world will see what went on in those lectures in the Philippine Studies. And every year, I allocate the funding for the DFA in different jurisdictions of the world to have Philippine Studies. And so, you may always ask me for support because I will always give it as long as it is relevant, and it truly is. Anyway, Ambassador Lee Sang-hwa, thank you so much. Ambassador Fontenelle is coming at 11, and the other distinguished ambassadors, but I thank you for being here, always very, very supportive. For those who, we work very well together, especially when you brought our former Secretary General of the United Nations to the Philippines. Was it last year? Right? Yes, because I sit on the board of his foundation, and we work on the issue of climate. As you know, the issue of culture and climate are directly connected. Let me read my speech, because I'm not the main speaker. I'm just supposed to welcome. It's really our national artist and our NCCA chair. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. 2,000 years ago, in the highlands of pre-colonial Philippines, a child stood at the edge of a terrace. His stones curled over the ledge. Below him, his grandfather waded knee-deep in the paddies, tending to a vast staircase of earth, mud walls carved with precision, rising along the mountain's natural contours to altitudes and inclines unmatched anywhere else in the world. The child does not yet understand what he is inheriting. How could he? No one can see 2 millennia ahead. And yet, here we stand, 2,000 years later, bearing witness to these same terraces that are nourished by the same ancient knowledge passed down through ritual and reverence, a masterfully tuned agro-ecosystem, its layout shaped by careful zoning and planning, its fertile soil maintained through extensive conservation techniques, and its balance controlled through an organic science not tainted by modern chemicals. The world around us has changed, but these terraces remain through the quiet brilliance of a people who, long before the world had a language for it, understood sustainability, engineering, and balance. And now, in a time when modern societies search for solutions to the climate crisis, food security, and ecological resilience, the world turns back to these ancient marvels to learn. And of course, all of you here know that I'm referring to the rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras, what UNESCO, and that Ivan is also here, calls a priceless contribution of Philippine ancestors to humanity. Today, as we gather to envision our path forward, I offer this thought. We cannot possibly grasp the world that awaits 2,000 years ahead, just as that child could not imagine ours, but what we choose to preserve today. Our knowledge, our traditions, our stories will ripple through time, shaping lives long after we are gone, just as the wisdom of the past continues to guide us now. In an era where power is measured in economic, political, security might, the Philippines wields a different strength perhaps, a soft power that endures rather than conquers, that inspires rather than imposes. Within the lessons of our ancestors may be found the answers to questions that future generations have yet to ask, and in that perhaps lies our greatest advantage. As your fourth-term senator, inaamin ko na po, since 1998, the longest serving in this Senate, this advocacy has been at the heart of my work, preserving culture, sharing it with the world, ensuring that it serves a greater purpose beyond ourselves. That is why we've championed laws that do more than just celebrate our heritage, that do more than just, that are just ink on paper. They institutionalize its preservation and ensure its continuity. And these include the National Cultural Heritage Act way back in 2009, and its amendatory law, the Cultural Mapping Law, NCCA, you're the implementers, which mandates a comprehensive inventory of our tangible and intangible heritage, ensuring what remains today will not be forgotten tomorrow. And alongside, we've enacted, if you will recall, in 2001, the Philippine Tropical Fabrics Law. It was a law that when I offered as a young senator, my elder colleagues who have since passed on to the great beyond, wondered, itong batang to, bakit tela ang pinag-uusapan? Galing sa telebisyon, puntang Senado, para ang pag-usapan, abaka, pinya, cotton, mga tela. Gagawa ng tela. That was in my first term in 1998 when I wrote the Philippine Tropical Fabrics Law. Finally, I convinced them it was enacted into law. We promoted the use of indigenous textiles for official uniforms in government and fostering the growth of our local weaving, and natural dye industry. We also passed, you will recall, the Gabaldon School Buildings Conservation Act. Kung saan po kayo may alam na eskwelahan ng DepEd na Gabaldon, sabihin niyo sa akin, kung sira, papaayos po, itatanggal natin kagalingan ng Gabaldon, ensuring that the restoration and adaptive reuse of historic schoolhouses happens. Because traditions, once they're lost, are nearly impossible to reclaim. And through our collective efforts, we have documented vanishing cultural treasures. NCCA, kayong lahat, tinutulungan niyo ako dyan. Kayong gumagawa. Practices yung Hernan, traditions, epics, and narratives that shape our national identity. Hindi ko lubos maisip kung hindi natin sinuwalan ito ng isang dekada o higit kung saan mapupunta ang maaral, ang dayaw, ang kaalaman, hindi na maaalala ng ating sambayanan. The books we've supported have been a powerful medium for this work, alongside instructional resources for students, researchers, and cultural workers. We've also made them more accessible through television and online programs such as Dayaw, Maarang, Usapang Wika, Buhay na Buhay. Buhay na Buhay was based on the research of the former chair of the NCCA, Prof. June De Leon. Dayaw is continuing with the full support of Chair Rio Almario and Chair Ino Manalo and all of you in the NCCA. Usapang Wika, yes, our Commission on Philippine Languages, with more than 100 languages, we collaborated on that so that we would have a program that would document the Philippine languages. I think we're one of, if not the country, or one of the countries in the world with the most number of languages aside from local dialects. Iba yung lengguwahe, iba yung dialecto. So all of this documentation of intangible heritage through our schools of living traditions, and the pending legislation in the Senate is the Institute of Living Traditions. Philippine languages into the immersive cultures and making them understood into the public consciousness. Numerous museums and galleries, thank you for your support, and they're always asking for financial support and resources, and we always try to give it, Jeremy. Galleries that serve as learning hubs, elevating the scientific, economic, and artistic dimensions of our craft. I recall that when Queen Sofia came to the Philippines 2 decades ago, 15 years ago, and our Hibla Textile Gallery was just in one small room in what we call now the Fine Arts. It was not even in the whole building of anthropology. But you brought her, we hosted her, and what did she say? This is the best of the best of the best. It was just one small room there, Jeremy. I remember that. In gastronomy, we promoted the slow food movement, culinary mapping, which is pending now in the Senate. It's a bill that celebrates indigenous ingredients and empowers our local communities. And we've funded the slow food movement every year, not just nationally, but also in localities, local communities like Negros. In music, we've revived traditional ensemble like the Rondalia. I think that's very regular, our support for the Rondalia. Do you know that even in Metro Manila, we have more than a dozen? How many Rondalia groups do we have? Huh? Hundreds of Rondalia groups. Did you know that? Hundreds of Rondalia groups just in NCR. And you will discover in every province there are Rondalia groups. And in fact, just yesterday, I was in Antique and I listened to a choir of an LGU named Patnongol. And the head of the choir, teary-eyed, said, ang gusto lang namin magkaroon ng bandurya. I bought them immediately. 1 or 2 bandurias, 5 bandurias. Yun ang gusto nila. You know, they don't even, they're not asking for luxuries in life. Gusto nila magkabandurya. Yun ang panaginip ng mga bata. Ang binilig namin usually ng 5 bagong. So, we're reviving traditional ensemble like the Rogdalia through camps, training, and we've strengthened support, of course, for the Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra. I think it was more than 10 years ago when we brought the PPO, and we continue to do so with the Anini Church, which has been labeled as a national cultural treasure in Anini Antique. We brought them to Aklan, we brought them to Mandan, to Iloilo, as well with Senator Frank Leon at the time. In architectural heritage, we've restored physical landmarks such as the Bahay Prudencia Fule, for those who would want to go to San Pablo, the Baraswan Church, of course, in Bulacan, the Balay na Bato in San Jose Antique, the old Capitol building. I was just there last week. That was an American colonial time building which we restored, where we have a Tikdam Lokal of the MSMEs of the local communities, in many provinces as well. The structures stood as silent witnesses to our nation's history and triumphs. But let me be clear about our purpose. Culture is not mere adornment. It is a vital engine of livelihood and economic growth. Because of course, when people say, ang ganda, yung kultura, malikhain, tama po lahat yun. And remember, culture provides economic livelihood, sustainable livelihood, especially in grassroots communities. The hands that keep it alive must be equipped with the necessary infrastructure, resources, and markets to ensure and to sustain their craft as a viable profession. Anything less is a betrayal of the very legacy we seek to protect. This is why we have championed the initiatives which are continuing, like the National Arts and Crafts Fair every October with the DTI and the SITEM and the NCCA, of course, where the schools of living tradition and the Gamabas who don't have access to markets finally have their own spaces for free and fully subsidized by government. It integrates the micro, small, and medium enterprises into the formal and mainstream economy by linking indigenous artisans and community-based enterprises with larger markets. We strengthen the Philippine textile industry by establishing weaving centers for our Gamabas like Magdalena Camayo, who's more than 100 years old, and many others, like the cotton processing facility in Pagdongon, Antique, in Miagao, and in many more. We support raw material production. We encourage the planting of cotton, and we funded through the Philfida cotton farms and built cotton processing centers, natural dye centers, because just like in Siem Reap and Luang Prabang and in many ASEAN countries, they dye using the plants that they can. And if it can be done there, we started it decades, if not centuries ago, why not? So it is an industry. It provides livelihood for people, however small. And so we reduce our reliance on synthetic imports while promoting environmentally responsible production. At the core of all these efforts is education. Culture survives when it is intentionally taught. Thus, these cultural talks that we're starting that will continue as we practice it, as we pass it down through our schools of living traditions. Perhaps next time we will have more talks on our SLPs in our Gamabas, right? That we have established. We've supported 30 of the hundreds, of which we actively support. Cultural masters directly mentor the next generation in immersive, community-based learning environments. Linguistic diversity is also a vital dimension of this continuity. We have the Atlas ng Wika. That was a time ng Nichebio, ng panahon nila. Yeah, I wish we could still have those books reprinted. A landmark linguistic mapping project alongside establishing
language markers nationwide, honoring the 135 languages spoken across the Philippines, 40 of which are already endangered and possibly extinct. Preservation alone is not enough. Culture must move beyond our shores so the world may witness and understand the depth and the richness of the Filipino spirit. A cornerstone of this vision is Centro Rizal, an international network of cultural centers in Philippine embassies and consulates promoting Filipino arts, language, and identity. And I'd like to work more closely with the DFA to see how else we can support the Centro Rizal with more visual support, with even books and interactive cultural activities. So building on this, as I mentioned, we championed and we continue to give funding support for the Philippine Studies Program way back in 2016 from the simple Facebook post of then Ambassador, now SFA Manalo, to deepen global academic engagement with Filipino culture and history. And so we've created a formal structure for our scholars to study and elevate the Filipino experience within the global intellectual community. Now, you know all this. For 51 years, we were absent in the Venice Biennale. In 2013, it was again a Senate hearing with the BFA and the NCCA when I asked, why are we not in the Venice Biennale? There was silence in the committee room, and I felt the absence of any support from any national official. I will not let it happen. So, after 1 or 2 years, we provided the support. I am not a curator. I may be an artist at heart, but I may not have studied arts management, but just with my legislative staff in the Senate, more than 10 years ago, we put things together so there would be an open call for artists. And now it is a very efficient, innovative, and creative process thanks to the small group under the NCCA we established, PAVP, the Philippine Arts in Venice Biennale. Thank you to Ria Rino and Dr. Patrick Flores and all of you who have made it happen. It was never easy. 2013, and then we started in 2015. At the time, they were saying, isang taon lang yan, hindi niya kaya yan. 2025, next year will be architecture, and then art again, and it's continuing. So, as you all know, this is what they call the most prestigious contemporary art and architecture exhibition in the world. Sabi nila, Olympics of Contemporary Art. And it carried on for so long without the Philippines. We would not allow that to happen. So we ended our silence in 2015, but I started the work in 2012. As all of you do in your respective fields, whether you're in DAP, you're in NCCA, or you are in magazine publication, or in arts management, or in LGU cultural activities, we must be persistent and focused and unrelenting. And so, leading our historic comeback, we ensured it was a strategic re-entry of the Philippines into the global artistic discourse. Our pavilion was just a small one in Palazzo Mora. Ako pang naghanap kung anong palazzo ang kayang bayaran at the time. Zero budget from government. Ginawan ko ng paraan. Yun, sa nag-aabono. Our pavilion challenged perceptions, positioning Filipino artists at the center of international dialogue. Now, we are at the main staging area of the Venice Biennale in the Arsenal. This year, I'm excited about the Philippines taking center stage as guest of honor at the Frankfurter Buchmesse. I invite all of you, but cannot pay for your airfare. As you all know, this is the world's largest book fair, but we will have activities in the Philippines as well in the run-up to October 2025. Again, just like when Secretary of Foreign Affairs posted on Facebook in 2016,
This time, it was a text message from an old friend because we're the same batch in towns. 90. Huh? 1995. We were both towns awardees. I've lost touch. She texted me, can you help us? Publishers, writers, go to the Frankfurt Book Fair. It was mid-year. I said, but the budget is already been done. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Of course they would not know the budgetary process. But I think I recommended a government agency, and there was some help given at that time. But after Karina Bolasco asked me that, I ensured that the next year we would have a decent roof, and the next year we will have more than a decent booth. It will be a good booth. And the next year, we would have a big booth that would be what? Attractive to the others to visit. And not only that, I said, make me an appointment with the CEO of this Frankfurter Book Fair. I said, how? They might not see us. No, we hounded the CEO. And the first thing I said was, I want the Philippines to be the guest of honor. At the time, it was Norway, the Philippines. There's only been one ASEAN nation, Indonesia. Why not the Philippines, right? So that's been since 2017 and 18 that the pandemic happened. And thank you, even during the pandemic, Karina and Patrick and Nenny and Annie and Ria put things together for the big book. And lo and behold, yes, we were selected by President Jimenez, of course, of my alma mater, University of the Philippines. Thank you for being here. Kinukwento ko lang kung paano ako kapigas ng ulo ako. You have to be stubborn to get things done. Tama po? Yun tinuro ng UP sa akin. Okay. So, we secured this milestone through persistence and conviction. For years, we watched as other nations, including our Southeast Asian neighbor, Indonesia, claimed the spotlight. And I asked, why not the Philippines? Surely a people whose words toppled a 300-year colonial rule and shaped revolutions belong among the world's greatest voices. Under the theme, the imagination peoples the air. Who can tell me where that comes from? That's a line of Dr. Jose Rizal. Inspired by Dr. Jose Rizal, we aim to utilize this as a gateway for Filipino publishing and make our writers known to global audiences. For Rizal was, above all, a storyteller, a weaver of truths that moved hearts and minds across the boundaries of time and place. And in his footsteps, we too are a nation of storytellers, using our voices to claim space in the global imagination, foster understanding, carve pathways for intellectual, creative dialogue. This cultural pride is also reflected in the Philippine textile collection and indigenous artifacts that Rizal entrusted to his friend, Dr. Adolf Bastian, the first director of the Berlin Ethnological Museum. You asked me again, ano alam yan? It was our ambassador then who picked me up in the airport. Si Pichi Natividad. He said, Senator, congratulations for the hibla that you have in the National Museum. I said, yes. Do you know that Rizal collected that stuff? I said, where? It's in the archives in Berlin. Take me there. And so the curator did not want to show me. It was archived in storage. I said, just 5 minutes. No photos. But he was on leave. I waited a couple of days. To make a long story short, he allowed us to come in, but no photos. Look at my phone, no deck. I said, it's not a camera, it's a phone. So I took photos. So the camera is a phone. And since then, I shared it with Jeremy at the time. That was 2012 and 13. And I provided resources for the National Museum to visit the Berlin Ethnological Museum because I wanted to bring home the Rizal collection of textiles, which we still wear now. Ikat, pinya, that he gifted to his close friend Adolf Bastian. So the pandemic happened, change of ambassadors, and they moved from Berlin to the Humboldt Forum, and then the pandemic happened. But we are now documenting the Rizal collection through the National Museum. I call Lani Mercado, thank you for being here. And yes, our Bacoor Assembly law has been passed. Very good. And so these are little snippets of the work I've been doing for decades. And Lani knows also what we did to try to give importance to the Bacoor Assembly, which is part of our history. Kinukwento ko, Lani, ang ating pagtuklas ng koleksyon ni Dr. Jose Rizal sa storage and archives. And at the time, the curator, he since resigned. He was probably upset with me. I got my phone for those of you know the Germans are very strict. Sorry for that. But then I stayed instead of 5 minutes for more than 1 hour with the ambassador. And so during this visit, we marveled at a Bagobo blouse. How did Rizal have the Bagobo blouse? A Manobo jacket, a Mandaya Abaca baby carrier, and other artifacts. I still have my photos, but it is now professionally documented and will be curated and could be part of the imagination people's theater in the Frankfurter Buchmesse. So in line with this timeless legacy, we are tirelessly working to secure, this was taken out of the budget. When I did my foreign policy address in the DFA, I announced that government will purchase the Rizal House, the Ulmer House in Wilhelmsfeld, beside Heidelberg, when he wrote the last chapters of the Noli Me Tangere during his 6-month stay with Pastor Karl Ulmer. Unfortunately, and I want to hold my tongue, the budget was taken out in my count, just like the NCCA budget was taken out, just like education budget was taken out, just like okay. So never mind that. I will not be upset because I just want positive energy. But I assure you, my family decided to purchase it, and I will open it to the Filipino people and the world. We are in the process of purchasing it because I have talked to the owners, the Protestant Vicarage, and they reserved it for the Philippine government. When they found out that the budget was taken out, it could not be an international comparison. When my son found out, he said, "Mommy, I will buy it for you and the Filipino people." So our family is working on it. You're talking to the German lawyers, and before October 2025, we must have purchased it already because Professor Angela Campo, Dr. Patrick Flores, Ria, and all those in charge of the Frankfurt Book Fair, all of you will have tours, Rizal tours in Wilhelmsfeld and in Heidelberg. So we have to purchase it way before October 2020. So I let out the cat out of the bag. I let the cat out of the bag. I wanted to be a surprise when we have purchased it already, but it takes long for lawyers to talk, etc. So at the time, Dr. Jose Rizal found refuge. Is the year correct? 1886? Baka mali ako. 1886. And he penned the final chapters of Noli Me Tangere, a testament to how spaces like stories hold the power to shape history. So, too long. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from government, friends from cultural work in local governments, friends from the academe who are present here today, diplomatic corps and culture advocates, friends from media, we need you to amplify our voices. A nation's pursuit of progress springs hollow without the soul of its heritage, and no vision of development can ever be complete if culture is left out of the conversation. Ambassador Fontanelle, I will see you this afternoon for our climate call to action, but thank you for being here. Yes, I confess, this is personal to me as well. And you ask me why? Pinalaki po ako mula ng
Ako lang to.
1960s ng aking ina sa isang kapaligiran ng kultura. My mother, the late Bessie Helia Bautista Ligarda, sang operas. She collected art, who later became artists, who later became national artists. Maling namin in the 1960s, they would become national artists in the 80s and the 90s. So we lived and breathed art in our small bungalow in Malabon, in a half-hectare property of trees where I dreamed to be an astronaut. As a little girl, I was surrounded by artistic luminaries who shaped our national identity, like Enrique Manansala, and frequented museums and art spaces, molding the lens through which I view culture today. It guided my hands as I wrote my thesis, UP, ilang taon kayo na? I wrote my thesis in 1978-79 as UP Institute of Bascom then. Fine Arts po yung thesis ko, buting iniyagan. It was a content analysis of Vicente Manansala's paintings during the martial years as an undergraduate of the UP then Institute of Bascom. My voice as a journalist bearing witness to the lives of indigenous groups, rural communities, and everyday Filipinos, their language, kinship, music, and traditions. I saw them not just in bloom, but often in decline. And as a result, I did not really report on these realities. We testified to them. And that is why we fought for the creation of the Permanent Standing Committee of the Senate on Culture and the Arts, which used to be just lodged under education. After year after year, we have defended the budgets of the cultural agencies and supported the creation of the Office of Cultural Diplomacy, headed in the Department of Foreign Affairs. However, as we celebrate our culture, I would be remiss in my advocacy if I did not acknowledge the pressing reality of our time, the climate crisis. For a nation consistently ranked among the most vulnerable in the World Risk Index, the stakes are nothing less than survival. As your UN Global Champion for Resilience, I'm committed to advancing sustainable, inclusive, and science-driven solutions. Integrating the wisdom of our cultural heritage into climate action offers a promising path to resilience. And this is why we have partnered with state universities and colleges to document indigenous ecological knowledge, resulting in the formal study and publication of traditional forest, coastal, and upland resource management systems, a critical resource for integrating indigenous strategies into national conservation policies and disaster resilience efforts. This is the trajectory that I envision. A future where the Philippines wields its soft power with conviction to elevate what is inherently ours and to champion something uniquely, undeniably Filipino. So I started my long message with a story of 2,000 years ago when a young child stood before the vast, intricate terraces carved by his ancestors. He did not yet understand what he was inheriting, but today we do. We know that culture does not survive by accident. It endures because generations choose to protect it. The terraces were not shaped by time alone, but by hands that toiled, minds that innovated, and people who knew that innovation and preservation go hand in hand. And that is why I persist. That is why we continue to champion cultural diplomacy as a force that defines our place in the world, which is why I believe in the power of our stories, language, art, traditions, for they may hold answers we don't fully understand until the moment demands them. And so I ask, 2,000 years from now, what will they see? Will they find the knowledge we safeguarded and carried forward? Or will they see nothing at all? A culture not lost to time, but to indifference and apathy. Because we let it slip away. Not stolen,
not erased, but abandoned. My dear friends, the weight of that responsibility in this very moment rests in our hands. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay tayo.
Maraming salamat, Senator Loren Legarda. Thank you very much. We don't mind how long it is. It was inspiring, it was beautiful, and it deserves another round of applause. Palakpakan po natin. Maraming salamat po. My favorite line, culture is not a mere adornment. It's an engine. Very, very powerful, very, very beautiful. At this point, we continue to acknowledge more of our guests joining us here today. So join me in welcoming them and giving them a round of applause as I begin with our dear national artist, Virgilio Almario. Maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga. Thank you for being here. Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo here as well. Welcome.
Sir, iko-continue ko po.
Of course, again, our dear Senator Loren Legarda. We also have our dear Senator Robin Padilla. Welcome. Congressman Lanny Mercado, District Representative, Cavite, 2nd District. Thank you for being here today. Ambassador